is
Side
if they're
joints.
restricted. Figure that out first. And then look for PIs and ASs. And if you do the standing forward bend test and seated forward bend test, and the seated is worse or the same as the standing, then just look for the sacral torsion. Don't even pay attention to the PIs or the AS if you can save some time there. And again, if your partner doesn't have anything, they don't have anything. But I mean, you can still practice some stuff if you want to. But it would be much better if you could find something, and then at the very least set it up to where you actually manipulate it. If your partner doesn't want you to do any kind of drop, you can do it that way. If they don't mind you doing a drop, I have no problem with you actually dropping on what you find. I don't have a problem with that at all. So let's do that, and then when we're done with that, we'll talk more PIRs.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
about
Question.
evaluating the sacral torsion? You're saying
Everybody pay attention, because chances are some of you have the same question. Everybody meaning you two too.
What's that?
As one.
oh, I was just asking, like, so as far as evaluating for sacral torsion, you were saying that you were talking about forward bend test and the step test, but I thought those were more.
No.
No.
I was talking about the standing forward bend test and the seated forward bend test, not the step test.
Okay. And those are going to evaluate for sacral torsion and can be used for.
Comparing the standing forward bend test to the seated forward bend test tells you that if the seated is the same or worse, you're going to be looking for a sacral torsion.
The seated is the same or worse. Okay.
So if you have the same kind of dragging PSIS with seated as you do standing, then look for a sacral torsion. If it gets worse, let's say standing, you don't notice any kind of dragging PSIS as everything's pretty stable, and seated, all of a sudden the PSIS moves a lot further because the sacrum's dragging it. You're going to look for a sacral torsion, not paying any attention to PIs and ASs.
Okay. And then how else are we evaluating sacral torsion?
Palpate.
Okay.
Find however it's torsion.
The one
Okay.
marks.
Okay.
So the one that, when you do the standing forward bend test, the one that moves first is the PSIS, correct? Or is, I mean, no. What,
I
the
think
one that moves first is the
stuck step.
Side to step.
Yeah.
the restriction,
Yeah. Yeah, first or more. Evaluate. It's the sacrum dragging the PSIS with it, so it's probably going to go more. Yeah.
I don't fully understand the difference. So when you're standing, it locks down the sacrum when you're bending.
No, when you're seated, it will amplify a sacral issue probably, because you're kind of sitting on the sacrum, even though you're sitting on your fish tubes as well. You're just kind of jamming everything together, and if you have a sacral issue, it'll be amplified when you're seated.
Okay, got it. It doesn't have anything to do with locking down the sacrum. Okay, because I've heard that that when you sit down, it like takes the hamstrings out of it, and it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard both ways. Like
It
Dr.
does
Brown has
take
said
the
this way.
hamstrings out of it, but
Okay.
that doesn't really help us.
Okay.
I mean, it does. It takes the hamstrings out of it,
Right.
because you're kind of sitting on it.
So if it's just out of alignment on the standing and then goes back to normal seated, would you
We're
ever
not talking
see
about
that?
alignment.
Or your movements on the.
It wouldn't go there and then stay there and then reduce. We're talking about movement. So PSIS will move a lot further, but then when they
sit.
unbend themselves, it'll come back.
Okay.
And then you do the seated, and you're looking for the same thing. So we're looking for movement there, not alignment.
You're talking about
you
the
would
step
never
test.
see the seated not move if you saw
Yeah.
the standing move, right?
No, you might.
You might,
Yeah.
and that means
Then you'd look for a PI or an AS
okay.
instead of a sacral torsion.
Boom.
Light bulb.
Good.
Synonymous. Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and evaluate that.